What is the significance of the address and registration weekend of the IEC? Is the Independent Electoral Commission on track to update the voters' roll with all addresses by June? What lessons has the IEC learned from the 2013 Tlokwe by-elections debacle? And when did Atul Gupta become a registered voter in South Africa? What time is it? It's question time. Khotsong, Gurula, Mraro, and welcome to the show. My name is Mpho Tsedu. The Independent Electoral Commission says it is all systems go for the address and registration drive that will take place over the weekend. More than 22,000 voting stations throughout the country are expected to open their doors from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. The Electoral Commission says this registration weekend is a milestone towards the culmination of a two-year project to obtain addresses for all registered voters. In June 2016, the Constitutional Court gave the IEC 18 months to collect the addresses of voters and certify them on the voters' roll. While the June 2018 deadline is a few months away, the IEC says it still does not have addresses for 2.8 million South Africans ahead of the 2019 general elections. Meanwhile, the IEC has confirmed that Atul Gupta is a registered voter on the voters' roll. So we are live, and therefore you can call us and air your views on the following numbers: 089-110-4210, international +2789-110-4210, our Twitter handle @QuestionTime24. And you can also stream us on our Facebook page, SABC News Online, and our YouTube channel, YouTube.com/SABC Digital News. My guest today, Sai Mamabulo. He's the Chief Electoral Officer for the Independent Electoral Commission, and he joins me in studio today. I want us to just get this sideshow off the way, and then we talk IEC matters.
Yep.
This Atul Gupta matter, what is happening there? You say he's a voter. The Home Affairs comes and says, no, he's not. Who's lying to us?
Well, I don't know. What is clear, though, is that for you to be on the voters' roll, you have to be a citizen. You've got to adduce an identity document upon registration. You've got to fill in a form. And once that is done, we do verifications against the National Population Register. And if we have confirmation that indeed you are a citizen, then we place you accordingly on the voters' roll. So every person who is on the voters' roll, their citizenship status has been checked and confirmed with the Department of Home Affairs.
So, as far as the IEC is concerned, Atul Gupta in Saxon world is eligible to vote.
Indeed. We have confirmed, and we did deal with that matter yesterday, that he is on the voters' roll, and one can deduce from that he is indeed a citizen of the Republic, and therefore entitled to be placed on the relevant segment of the voters' roll.
Let's leave that aside. It's really not your business. That's politics.
Indeed.
The weekend, it's what, 10-11 March 2018. That's registration. Let's just talk about that briefly.
Okay. We are beginning the journey towards 2019 elections.
Yes.
We've started. An election takes about 2 years to prepare. So we are well into the preparations. We are happy at the rate we are progressing in terms of those preparations. But this is an important milestone. It commences the journey. We are opening over 22,000 voting stations to provide for 3 services over the weekend. Firstly, for those South Africans for whom we don't have an address, to provide an address in anticipation of the Concord deadline in June. Secondly, there may be South African, in fact there are South Africans who have since turned 18 or rather 16. And this is an opportunity for them to make their way to voting station to enlist, because it is important that young persons take part in these elections. An election, it's a unique opportunity where you express your political views.
Yes.
And then lastly, this is an opportunity for South Africans who are on the voters' roll, but who may have changed residences since the last election, to come and register in the correct voting districts. We'll open voting stations at 8, and they'll so remain until 5 p.m. on both days.
Okay. Now, what happens with this young ones that you're referring to? So if he or she will be eligible to vote by next year, they can go ahead and register meanwhile. At what ages are those, and when will they be eligible to vote?
As soon as you have a registration, an identification document, be it a smart card, be it a green barcoded ID, which you get at 16 years,
yes,
you can come and register. We will, however, place you on the voters' roll upon attaining the years of 18.
Okay.
And if you are 17, next year you'll be 18, you will be on the voters' roll. But if you are 16, we'll only place you when you turn 18.
Okay. Now, there's this debacle about addresses. Now, let's take, for instance, people in the rural areas, those in the deep rural areas, not Viking and Men's, where there may be addresses, you know,
yes,
on the homesteads. But in those deep rural areas where there are no addresses, what happens?
Fortunately, the Concord did anticipate that reality, and they said where there are no conventional addresses, i.e. a number, street name, suburb name,
yeah,
and a postal code, take particulars, in other words, descriptors of where the household is.
Yes.
An example, I live in an informal cell called Stretler, next to a particular crèche or next to a particular tuck shop. So we have a form that we are availing to all stations, okay, where those descriptions will be recorded and they'll be placed on record.
Okay. Butani, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mpho.
Tobela.
Look, the issue is about the publicity. My issue is about the publicity and the media campaign around what is happening now. Because I was very disappointed to find that an equal partner whom I'm serving in Polokwane with, who's from a very deep rural area called Hamatlala Dibe, he did not know, at the age of 33 today, he still does not know what is happening this weekend, the 10th and the 9th. So I'm more concerned about the information, the dissemination of information to public at large. To say maybe they must beef up Kolobe, beef up the history and beef up the marketing so that we can be informed. Penetrate universities, penetrate radios. Don't wait for only interviews to come. Perhaps Padilo Hotla then statistics must give 1 or 2 lectures about how to popularize this campaign so it's not only known to us who are fortunate, even those in the Bundus rural areas, there in Hamaka and Ramatlala, they should know what is happening and they should know it coming from you, not from the next person. So my only issue is about information and dissemination of that information to the public at large. Thank you very much, Mpho.
Thanks very much, Butani there.
Butani, I think we take the advice. Of course, we have run what I believe to be a fairly successful marketing and advertisement campaign. But to the extent that it may not have reached some people, it's always regrettable. Information can never be enough, and we can only build on the successes that we will register, especially for people in rural areas. That's why we are using most of the SABC platforms, in particular radio, because of its greater reach and the ease of language, because in radio you can apply many different official languages.
Now, you see, what Butani is saying comes at a cost. And, well, you're not poor, but you don't have adequate resources.
Look, the fiscal the fiscal position of the country is not where we want it to be. So our engagements with National Treasury have revealed the fact that as a country, we don't have the resources that we need to do everything that we want to do. So there are constraints, not only at the Electoral Commission, but throughout the state machine. So there are things that we would like to do, but we don't have money for them. So even in terms of the extent of our campaign, had we had better resources, we would have done much better than we have. But it's a reality of life, circumstances. We've got to live in circumstances that are less than ideal. Then
there's some hot potatoes. I'll identify one.
Yep.
Vuwani.
Yes.
The community there says, unless we are registered under a particular municipality, we are not going to participate. How have you navigated through this border disputed areas?
Look, Vuwani remains a difficulty. We obviously, in preparation, have been engaging with the traditional leadership there and the demarcation committee.
Yeah.
Preparations have been made, and we hope that we'll be allowed to establish voting stations in the area, so that the community that lives in Vuwani also have the possibility to register their informed choices in political terms and shape whatever they may wish to shape in terms of public policy in that province. So we are continuing our discussions, and we hope that they'll bear fruit by Saturday.
Nhlakanipho.
Yebo, Baba.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Mandawa.
I'm well, thanks for the call.
Yes, I'm calling. I'm in Pretoria, in a place called Jagala Dance, border of Northwest and Gauteng.
Yes.
Now, my problem is, just I wanted to find, because you see, there are some other people who are coming from the farms. I think I saw, I never heard in that Mama Bolo there speaking about, there are some people who are coming from the farms, and their address is the farms. And you see, it's difficult for such people to, when it comes to registration. So at least, can you clarify how best can that be done? Because you go there, like Tate, he has explained that you say there's a nearest church there. But in the farms, what can you, because there are cuckoos and things like that, especially for people like us, in the cuckoos and the farms there. How can you address that? Because we need to register, we need to vote and things like that. So how best can you assist there in those lines?
Okay, thanks, Nhlakanipho.
The place at which farm workers live is their place of ordinary residence. And the voting station in that voting district is the voting station where they need to register. Now, if there's a conventional address for that farm wherein they live, that is the address they need to use for registration purposes.
Oh, okay.
However, if there is no formal or conventional address, then they can give us the descriptors as to where that farm is located, and that will be sufficient for purposes of the voters' roll.
We'll come back to this farm scenario, but whilst talking about this registration, what is required? Do you require proof of residential address in order for one to say this is where I want to vote, or are you just taking my word because it is where I would, for instance, just like to vote?
Look, two things there. Firstly, is the legal imperative that you register where you are ordinarily resident. So it's not a matter of an option.
Okay.
You've got to register in the voting district in which you live. Now, in order for us to be able to locate the correct voting district for you, we need an address or the descriptors of where you live, and one of those would position us to be able to place you correctly in the voting district.
So, is there any form of documentation that is required?
No, not at all. We are going to work on the basis on the border fides of people. You come and finish an address, and we take that address as you give it to us. However, it's important that we sound a caution that if you finish incorrect address in order to defraud the system, that amounts to a criminal offense, and we will have to prosecute you if that matter is brought to our attention.
Okay, Ntate Sono.
Tatampo.
Khotsong mrutuak.
Akele tandise maranale buwa.
Mre.
Thank you, Tata. Mpo.
Yes.
Quick two questions there. Can I just ask Mr. Butana there? Why there is no longer voter education? Because after 1994, we used to get this thing of voter education. Deep down in rural areas, these people used to come to the villages and teach the society how to vote, how to conduct this thing of elections. But it's no longer there. And secondly, why IEC is still using the very same people, those teachers, those old teachers, they are still there working at the voting stations. They can't bring these young people within, you understand? Okay. We've got a lot of people, young generations, that have completed school. But IEC doesn't look at these people and say, no, let us bring them near to the board so as they can learn more. Because they are saying for now, they want more youth to go and register. But then they are not doing anything. And then lastly, when are they putting increase there? And the payment of, they're taking too long before they can issue pay the people after the elections. Thank you so much, Murutiak.
Let's start with the last question and let's deal with it factually.
Yeah.
For this weekend, we are employing 73,000 registration officials throughout the country. 64% of persons who are going to be working in voting stations are unemployed youth. So it is not correct on a factual basis that we are using people who are already employed in total. So 73% it's the unemployed.
Is it young people?
These are young unemployed persons. And there's also a gender bias in that 64% of persons who will be working are women at the voting stations. Okay. Now, the issue of teachers has been topical with every ensuing election. We've been reducing the number of teachers employed progressively over a number of elections. As matters then in this registration weekend, I think the number of the percentage of teachers is about 20%. So, it's reducing. By the time we get to elections, I'm sure would have made even more reductions. The issue at play is this: teachers are responsible for the property in the schools. So it's important that at least one of them is available as part of our staff to facilitate access to the school, to ensure that he or she looks after the property of the school. Otherwise, we may just have difficulties. We don't want a situation where you have a registration weekend, come Monday, learners don't have furniture to sit on because that furniture has disappeared during the registration weekend. So we need to balance all those imperatives. But at the constitutional level, we also cannot make a global position that says teachers may not be employed by the IEC. You've got to open it up for everybody, all components of society, have a fair, equitable, transparent process of recruitment. And we do have recruitment criteria that support that type of realization. so that we accommodate everybody, the young, women, people who are disabled, and so on and so on and so on.
Okay, hold it there. Well, today is the International Women's Day, and for the UN Director for Women, Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, is currently addressing women at the UN. So we're going to just dip in for a few seconds and come back and continue our conversation here.
And civil society to rid all forms of violence against women. We celebrate the announcements of UN sister agencies that work on ending child marriage, that in the last decade we are beginning to see the decline of this harmful cultural practice. We welcome and celebrate the activism of our Gambian Regional Goodwill Ambassador, and listen to this. She is a Nobel Prize nominee for her work on ending FGM and child marriage. Can you imagine child marriage, FGM, and a Nobel Peace Prize together in one sentence? This is tipping point. This is change. At CSW 62, we must generate global consensus to accelerate the much-needed end of all forms of discrimination against women, because an injury to one is an injury to all. And time.
Okay, that was Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka there speaking at the United Nations in celebration or marking the International Women's Day today. Now, perhaps let's just slant our discussion towards this gender issues. In South Africa, what are the voting patterns in terms of gender?
Firstly, in terms of registration, 55% of all persons on the roll are women, okay, and 45 are men. That trend obtains even in terms of the voting patterns. Just over 53% of women participate in election than the 47% of men. So it is clear, therefore, that women do take elections seriously. Mm-hmm. And that they participate more than men do. Even in terms of our staff, not just or during the registration weekend, on election day, we replicate that trend, okay, to have more women as staff than men, because, as it were, they are the majority of people on the roll anyway.
Okay. So what can political parties do and not do this weekend? We know that during voting there are some laws, some do's and don'ts. This weekend, what are the limitations?
Well, I think, first of all, as the Commission, we have to say to political parties, thank you for the message. I think all parties have put a shoulder to the wheel to try to mobilize South Africans to go to stations during the weekend. Mm. Now, the role that they can play, they will obviously be party agents, one per party, because it's a registration weekend. Mm-hmm. They will observe the process. They will guide voters who may be seeking advice as to where their stations are and so on. Okay. But overall, this is a registration weekend. It's essentially an administrative process. Okay. It's not so much a political process, which obtains on election day.
So let's look at the political parties. How many do we have? Have you closed the door already? Can I go and register my party after this weekend?
But we have on the register of parties just under 530 political parties.
What?
Which are registered. Indeed, 530 political parties which are registered. Now, registration just says you have your logos protected, you have your abbreviated name protected, you have your name protected, and so on. Come election time, you will have to pay an election deposit and submit a list of candidates to the Electoral Commission. Only then are you officially participating in the electoral process.
Contact details for any inquiries.
Inquiries, contact center 0800 11 8000. Or if you just want to check whether you are registered, you send your ID number to 32810. Otherwise, our website, it's available, functioning. You can check your registration details. You can check where your voting station is by visiting our website at elections.org.za.
Right. Well, that was question time for today. A big thank you to my guests and to you for watching the show. From me and the entire crew, you have yourself a wonderful time. And we leave you with some pictures from the United Nations International Women's Day celebrations.